Confess by Colin Hoover. The confession you read within this novel are true confessions, submitted anonymously by readers. This book is dedicated to all of you who found the courage to share them. Part 1 Prologue. Auburn. I passed through the hospital doors knowing it will be the last time. On the elevator, I place the number 3, watching it illuminate for the last time. The doors open to third floor and I smile at the nurse duty, watching her expression as she pities me for the last time. I pass the supply room and the chapel and the employee break room, all for the last time. I continue down the hallway and keep my gaze forward and my heart brave as I tap lightly on his floor door, waiting to hear Adam invite me in the very last time. Come in, his voice is somehow still filled with hope, and I have no idea how. He is on his bed, lying on his back. When he sees me, he comforts me with his smile and lifts the blanket, inviting me to join him. The rail is already lowered, so I climbed in beside him, wrapped my arm over his chest, and lock our legs together. I bury my face into his neck, searching for his warmth, but I can't find it. He's cold today. He adjusts himself until we are in our usual position, with his left arm under me and his right arm over me, pulling me to him. It takes him a little more time to get comfortable than it usually does, and I notice his breathing increase with each small movement he makes. I try not to notice these things, but it's hard. I'm aware of his increased weakness, his slightly paler skin, the ferocity in his voice. Every day during my allotment time with him, I can see that he is sleeping further away from me, and there's nothing I can do about it. Nothing anyone can do but watch it happen. We have known for 6 months that it would be and this way. Of course, we all prayed for a miracle, but this isn't the kind of miracle that happens in real life. My eyes close when Adam's chill leaves me my forehead. I've told myself I'm not going to cry. I know that's impossible, but I can at least do everything I can to forestall the tears. I'm so sad, he whispers. His words are so out of line with his usual positivity, but it comforts me. Of course, I don't want him to be sad, but I need him to be sad with me right now. Me too. Our visit over the last few weeks have mostly been filled with a lot of laughter and conversation, no matter how forced. I don't want this visit to be any difficult, but knowing it's our last makes it impossible to find anything to laugh about or talk about. I just want to cry with him and scream about how unfair this is for us, but that would tarnish the memory. When the doctor in Portland said there wasn't nothing more they could do for him, his parents decided to transfer him to a hospital in Dallas, not because they were hoping for a miracle, but because their entire family lives in Texas, and they thought it would be better if he could be near his brother and everyone else who loved him. Adam had moved to Portland with his parents just 2 months before we began dating a year ago. The only way Adam would agree to return to Texas was if they allowed me to come too. It was a battle finally getting both sets of parents to agree, but Adam argued that he was the only dying. He was the one dying, and he should be allowed to dictate who he is with and what happens when the time comes. It's been 5 weeks now since I came to Dallas, and the two of us have run out of sympathy from both sets of parents. I was told I have to return to Portland immediately or my parents will be slapped with torrency charges. If it weren't for that, his parents might have let me stay. But the last thing my parents need right now is legal issues. My flight is today, and we have exhausted all other ideas for how I can convince them that I don't need to be on that flight. I didn't tell Adam this and I won't. But last night, after more peace from me, his mother Lydia finally voiced her true opinion on the matter. You're 15, Urban. You think what you feel for him is real, but you'll over him in a month. Those of us who have loved him since the day he was born will have to suffer with his loss until the day we die. Those are the people he needs to be with right now. It's a strange feeling when you know at 15 that you just lived through the hardest words you will ever hear. I didn't even know what to say to her. How can a 15-year girl defend her love when that love is dismissed by everyone? It's impossible to defend yourself against inexperience and rage. And maybe they're right. Maybe we don't know love like an adult knows love. But we sure as hell feel it. And right now it feels immediately heartbreaking. How long before your flight? Adam asked as his fingers delicately traced slow circle down my arm, and for the last time, 2 hours. Your mother and Trey are downstairs waiting for me. She says, we need to leave in 10 minutes in order to make it on time. 10 minutes? He repeats softly. That's not enough time to share with you all the profound wisdom I have occurred while on my deathbed. I'll need at least 15 or 20 tops. I laugh at it, probably the most pathetic, sad laugh to ever leave my mouth. We both hear the despair in it, and he holds me tighter, but not much tighter. He has very little strength even compared to yesterday. His hand soothes my head and he presses his lips into my hair. I want to thank you, Owen, he says quietly, for so many things. But first, I want to thank you for being just as pissed off as I am. Again, I laugh. He always has jokes, even when he knows they are his last. You have to be more specific, Adam, because I'm pissed off because of about a whole hell of a lot right now. He loosens his grip from around me and makes a tremendous effort to roll towards me so that we will facing each other. One could argue that his eyes are hazel, but they aren't. They are layers of green and browns touching but never blending, creating the most intense defined pair of eyes that have ever looked in my direction. Eyes that were once the brightest part of my life, of him, but are now defeated by an ultimately faith that is slowly draining the color right of them. I'm referring specifically to how we're both so pissed at that for being such a greedy bastard. But I guess I'm also referring to our parents for not understanding this, for not allowing me to have to one and only thing I want here with me. He's right, I'm definitely pissed about both of the things, but we have been over it enough times in the last few days to know that we lost and they won. Right now, I just want to focus on him and soak up every last ounce of pain of his presence while I still have it. You said you have so many things to thank me for. What's the next one? He smiles and brings his head up to my face. His thumbs brushes over my lips, and it feels as if my heart longs towards him in a despite attempt to remain here, while my empty sail is forced to fly back to Portland. I want to thank you for letting me with your first, he says, and for being mine. His smile briefly transferred him from a 16-year-old baby on his deathbed into a handsome, vibrant, full of life teenager boy who is thinking about the first time he had sex. His word and his own reaction to his words force an embarrassed smile to cross my face as I think back to that night. It was before we knew he would be moving back to Texas. We knew his prognosis at that point and we were still trying to accept it. We spent an entire evening discussing all the things we could have experienced together if we had a possibility of forever. traveling, marriage, kids, including what we would have named them, all the places we would have lived, and of course, sex. We predicted that we would have had a phenomenal sex life. If given the chance, our sex life would have been the envy of all our friends. We would have made love every morning before we left for work and every night before we went to bed, and sometimes in between. We laughed about it, but the conversation soon grew quite as we both realized that this was the one aspect of our relationship that we still had control over. Everything else about the future we had no voice in, but we could possibly have one private thing that could never take from us. We didn't even discuss it. We didn't have to. As soon as he looked at me and I saw my own thoughts mirrored in his eyes, we began kissing and we didn't stop. We kissed while we undressed. We kissed while we touched. We kissed while we cried. We kissed until we were finished. And even then, we continued to kiss in celebration of the fact that we had won this one small battle against life and that and time. And we were still kissing when he held me afterward and told me he loved me, just like he's holding and kissing me right now. His hand is touching my neck and his lips are parting mine in what feels like somber opening of a goodbye letter. Auburn. His lips are whispering against mine. I love you so much. I contest my tears in our kiss, and I hate that I'm ruining our goodbye with my weakness. He pulls away from my mouth and presses his forehead against mine. I'm struggling for more air than I'd ever need, but my panic is setting in, burying itself in my soul and making it hard to think. The sadness feels like warmth creeping its way up my chest, creating an insurmountable pressure. The closer it gets to my heart. Tell me something about yourself that no one else knows. His voice is laced with his own tears as he looks down at me. Something I keep for myself? He asks this of me every day and every day. I tell him something I've never said out loud before. I think it comforts him knowing things about me that no one else will ever know. I close my eyes and think while his hands continues to run across all the area of my skin he can ever reach. I've never told anyone what goes through my head when I fall asleep at night. His hand poses on my shoulder. What goes through your head? I open my eyes and look back into his. I think about all the people I wish could die instead of you. He doesn't respond at first, but eventually his hand resumes its movement, tracing down my arm until he reaches my finger. He slides his hand over mine. I bet you don't get very far. I force a soft smile and shake my head. I do though. I get really far. Sometimes I say every name I know. So I start saying names of people and I never met in person before. I even make up names sometimes. Adam knows I don't mean what I'm saying, but it makes him feel good to hear. His thumb swipes away tear from my cheek and it makes me angry that I couldn't even wait a whole 10 minutes without crying. I'm sorry, Adam. I tried really hard not to cry. His eyes grow soft with his response. If you would have walked out of this room today without crying, it would have devastated me. I stopped fighting it with those words. I fist his shirt in my hands and began to sob against his chest while he holds me. Through my tears, I tried to listen to his heart, wanting to curse his whole body for being so unheroic. I love you so much. His voice is breathless and full of tears. I love you forever, even when I can't. My tears falls harder at his words. And I love you forever, even when I shouldn't. You cling to one we cling to one another as we experience a sadness so excruciating it makes it hard to want to live beyond it. I tell him I love him because I need him to know. I tell him I love him again. I keep saying it more times than I ever said it out loud. Every time I say it, he tells me right back. We say it so much that I am not sure who's repeating who now. But We keep saying it over and over until his brother, Trey, touches my arm and tells me, "It's time to go." We're still saying it as we kissed for the last time. We are still saying it as we hold on each other. We are still saying it as we kiss for the last time again. And I'm still saying it.